The 2026 NBA playoffs are here, and we have some very, very fun matchups already in round one. So if you want to hear more about that along with other sports, tune in right after the intro. Thank you for tuning in to podcast number 93 of Sports Talk with JWock. I'm your host, Jonah Walkenfoos, and like you heard from the intro, the NBA playoffs have officially begun. As of today, Wednesday, April 15th, we've already got two matchups done in the play-in tournament, where we saw the Miami Heat fall to the Charlotte Hornets, so the Charlotte Hornets will be moving on to the next part of the play-in tournament to try to make the playoffs as the 8th seed, and then we saw the Portland Trailblazers defeat the Phoenix Suns as they will be moving on as the 7th seed going into the NBA playoffs to face the number 2 seed San Antonio Spurs. But before we get into more of this NBA playoff talk, first off, I want to ask, have you subscribed? If not, it's totally free. You can like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode and you're always notified when I upload. So that could be really useful for some of you. If not, that's totally okay. But let's kind of get back into this topic of the NBA. Before we get into the playoffs, let's talk about some breaking news that happened a few days ago. Actually, on Sunday, shortly after the Bucks played, I cannot remember who the Bucks played. I believe it was the Philadelphia 76ers. Doc Rivers has been fired as the head coach. He will be either looking for a different job, possibly retiring, but Doc Rivers will no longer be coaching and being the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. This is some news that I think wasn't very surprising. Personally, I think this is really good for the Bucks, especially because I just don't think Doc Rivers is as good of a coach as some people would say. I know he's an NBA champion, but at the same time, as of recent, he really just hasn't been producing great stuff for the teams he's coached. And in my opinion, it was a smart move for the Bucks to move off of him, especially if they want to have any sort of effort to trying to keep Giannis in the offseason. But besides that news, let's go to the NBA playoff picture where I'll put the playoff tree up on the screen right now so you guys can see it just without it being filled out. So we have first up in the Western Conference, the number 1 Oklahoma City Thunder, the number 4 Lakers going against the number 5 Rockets, the number 3 Nuggets going against the number 6 Timberwolves, and then the number 2 Spurs going against the number 7 Portland Trailblazers. And then in the play-in tournament, we saw Portland defeat the Suns. So Phoenix will play the winner of the game tonight, as I'm recording this on Wednesday, versus which is the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. So whoever wins that game will go on to play the Phoenix Suns in hopes to trying to make the playoffs as the 8th seed going against the number 1 seed Thunder, which in realistic manners, like, you might as well just book a trip to Cancun after like a week or two because you're probably not going to make it out very far against the Thunder. And then let's go to the Eastern Conference where we have the Detroit Pistons waiting to see who they play against, but they are the number 1 seed. The number 4 Cavs are going against the number 5 Raptors. The number 3 Knicks are going against the number 6 Hawks. The number 2 Celtics are still waiting to see who they will be going against, as tonight they will know because we will know who the winner of the Philadelphia 76ers and Orlando Magic game will be. So whoever wins that game will go on to play Boston, and then whoever loses that game will go on to play Charlotte in hopes of trying to be the number 8 seed to go against Detroit. So let's talk about some notable matchups, essentially where there are some great round 1 matchups already. This is what I love about the NBA playoffs. It just feels like, especially as of recent, it just feels so even. And let's just start with the Western Conference, where I think the 1 and 2 seeds, the Thunder and the Spurs, I think they'll have probably no problem in the first round. The Lakers and Rockets as the 4 and 5 seed are very interesting to me because Luka Doncic most likely will not be playing in the first round. Along with Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves will for sure not be in, I believe. But with the Rockets, it's like, can they take care of business? Realistically, I think they should win this series, and that's why I will predict that they will win this series. But I think it might be closer than you think, just because I think LeBron James is going to have to put the team on his back, and I think he'll do a decent job at that, and I think he might take 1 or 2 games, but outside of that, I just don't see the Rockets losing this series. I could be very wrong about that. This one could be the one that gets a lot of people's brackets messed up. Also, the next round, or the next matchup in the Western Conference, the Nuggets-Timberwolves, a very good matchup already in round 1. Definitely hurts as a Nuggets, like if you're a Nuggets fan, and I like supporting the Nuggets because the Bulls aren't in the playoffs, so I'm going to support the Nuggets now. Them having to go against the Timberwolves in round 1 is just heartbreaking, considering the fact that this Timberwolves team probably matches up the best with the Nuggets right now. The Timberwolves adding Ayo Dosunmu from the trade deadline was just an absolute steal, and this Timberwolves team is going to be good. Anthony Edwards' health is a little bit in question, but he's been playing as of recent, so I'm not too concerned about that. And then for Denver, they're starting to get healthier. It's just going to be a matter of fact of, can that bench produce what they need to be doing to help the starters out, which, if you don't know, in the NBA, depth is so important. So I do think the Nuggets will win this game, or this series. I think they'll win in 7, though. I think it's going to go down to the very last game, and I think Jokic is just going to take over. Jokic has a history of playing good against Rudy Gobert especially, so you could say that Rudy Gobert is Jokic's son. But anyways, I think the Nuggets will win that game. And then as far as the 1 and 2 seeds, like I said, I think they probably won't have any problem. Whoever the Thunder play, I think they'll win in 4 or 5 games. And then for the Spurs, I think this one could be a little interesting. I think the Spurs might, or the Trailblazers might take them to about 6, just because Denny Avdia has been playing great. Klingon might make Wemby have a little bit of problems. I doubt it, but things could get interesting there, but I do think the Spurs will win. And shout out to the Portland Trailblazers. They gave the Chicago Bulls their first round pick because they made the playoffs. So there's little bit of hope in Chicago, but we're not going to be talking about them because they're nowhere near this playoff picture. But so let's just do a little recap. I have the Thunder winning the first round. I have the Rockets winning their series against the Lakers. I have the Nuggets winning against the Timberwolves, and the Spurs winning against the Trailblazers. Let's get on to the Eastern Conference. And by the way, I will have my whole entire bracket prediction posted on Instagram once the play-in tournament is officially over. It'll be the same predictions like I'm saying now in the first round, but it'll be all the way up until I'll even pick my finals champion. So you could check that out on Instagram and Facebook. So just letting you know, if you want to see my full predictions, check it out on there. I just don't think there's a need to have a whole episode on a bracket. But anyways, let's get on to the Eastern Conference, where I think the Pistons, whoever they play, either the Hornets or the 76ers / Magic, I think they won't have any problem with that. I think with Cade Cunningham coming back, that's a huge win for the Pistons, and this Pistons team is just really good. Dennis Jenkins, if you don't know, deserves a ton of credit for playing just absolutely insane with Cade Cunningham's absence, and I think this Pistons team is just, they have the star talent, they have the depth. I just don't see them having a problem in the first round, especially. The next matchup would be the Cavs and the Raptors, the 4 and 5 seeds. I think the Cavs will win this. I think James Harden has been playing very well with the Cavs, and this Cavs team just is bound to do something. Like, Donovan Mitchell always shows up in those situations, and now having a star like James Harden could really put the Cavs over the edge, and I think the Cavs will win this first round in about 6 games. Because this Raptors team, don't get me wrong, they are a great defensive team. It just is the offense. Can they match that offense of the Cleveland Cavaliers? And I just don't think they can. The next round, this could be a very good round, is the 3 and 6 seed between the Knicks and the Hawks. It's like the 3 and 6 seeds for both sides are going to be very fun and probably the best series of the playoffs. But the Knicks and Hawks could be very interesting. I think a lot of people are going to predict that the Knicks are going to win this series really quickly. I would beg to differ. I think that the New York Knicks are a great team, and I think they will win the series, but this Atlanta Hawks team is underrated. Jalen Johnson, in my opinion, is the most underrated player in the NBA. He's a borderline superstar in my books. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the guard that they acquired in the offseason in free agency that the Timberwolves let go of, he's been putting up 20-plus points per game this year. and they just have a good core of players that has just been playing really well. They finally moved off of Trae Young, which was a smart move, and it's been really fun to be able to watch this Hawks team. But I do think the Knicks will win this series in about 6 games. And then we have the Celtics going against either the winner of the 76ers/Magic game. I think the Celtics will have no problem in this. I think if there was one team they probably wouldn't want to play against, it's the Magic, just because I think the Magic match up better with the Celtics. But I do think the Celtics will win this series, but it could go to 7. I think the Celtics would win in 7. But anyways, that's going to be the end of the first round predictions. Let me just name who I have winning. So in the Western Conference, I have the Thunder making it out in that series. I have the Rockets making it out of the other series, Nuggets, and Spurs. I have them all making it out of the first round. And then for the East, I have the Pistons, Cavs, Knicks, and Celtics making it out of the Eastern Conference in the first round. Let me know your guys' predictions on who you think will not only win in the first round, but also just win the NBA Finals in general. I'd like to be able to see your predictions and look back and see if any of you guys were right or not. So let me know that down below. But anyways, normally I do the main topic as the final topic, but today we had that as the first topic. So this final topic, we're going to be talking about actually the Masters. But before we go into that, let's talk about the NFL real quick. The NFL draft is next week. I'm super excited to be able to watch that. But once again, I just really don't feel incentivized to talk about the NFL right now. There's just not a ton to talk about. But let's get into the Masters, where we saw this last weekend Rory McIlroy winning his second straight Masters, which is honestly truly incredible. It just felt like he was on such a big drought for many years. And then last year, he finally breaks the drought, wins the Masters, and it just is like, it was a huge moment. And then this year, it's like, wow, he dominates again. There was moments where it got a little scary, and I thought Schefter and him were going to have to do a little bit of a shootout, but McIlroy gets the job done. It was a little scary on the first shot out of the tee box, but McIlroy gets the job done. And just some history being made. Only 4 people ever went back-to-back in the Masters in history. So let's just name out those players. So Jack Nicklaus, he did that in 1965 and 1966. Nick Faldo was 1989 to 1990, and I hope I'm saying these names right. The third person to ever do it was Tiger Woods in 2001 and 2002. And then now, the newest one, Rory McIlroy for 2025 and 2026. So we haven't seen this happen for about 20 plus years. It looks like about 23 years since the last time we've actually seen, 24 years since we've actually seen someone go back-to-back as the winner of the Masters. So congratulations to Rory McIlroy. Comment below, do you think we will see a new winner next year, or do you think Rory McIlroy will be the winner once again and possibly have a three-peat in the Masters, which would be pretty incredible? But anyways, that's going to be the end of podcast number 93 of Sports Talk with JWock. Once again, I appreciate every one of your support. I'm having a little bit busier of a schedule now with work especially, so I'm going to really be trying to get these podcasts out the best of my ability. But if they're a little shorter or just not in as much detail, you know why. But once again, if you'd like to comment down a random sport that you could just think of, a random sport or something that you might consider a sport that I can talk about in future episodes, that would be awesome, and make that a topic. I feel like that'd be super cool. But basically, comment down a random sport that I could talk about in future episodes, and then I'll determine, is it a sport or not, and do you have to be an athlete to play that quote-unquote sport? But anyways, once again, you could always like and subscribe the video, comment below that sport, along with also hitting the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.